Welcome to Tenacity with Sonia C., the podcast where entrepreneurs, founders, and ambitious professionals come to learn from those who have walked the path, navigating challenges and achieving success. Whether it's thriving in business, pivoting, scaling for growth, fundraising, or finding work life balance, dealing with loneliness, adversity, or overcoming personal struggles. Our guests share the insights and strategies that have empowered them to level up. I'm your host, Sonia, and let's get started. My guest today is Gabriel Camp, co founder of KNR, an award winning digital agency helping some of the world's most iconic luxury brands transform their online presence into powerful growth engines. What I love about Gabriel's story is how it started with pure passion, building websites at 9 years old, and evolved into leading digital transformations for some of the most recognized names in fashion and beauty. Along the way, he learned what it takes to stand out in a crowded market, win trust in high stakes industries, and turn creativity into measurable business growth. Today, we're diving into lessons, failures, and pivots behind KNR's journey and how founders can apply those same strategies to scale their own businesses. Hi, Gabriel. How are you today? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Sonia, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm excited to get into this conversation with you.
Yeah,
You ready to get right into it?
let's do it.
Let's do it. And there's no time like the present, right?
Yeah.
So you started building websites at 9 years old and eventually co-founded KNR. Looking back, what was the turning point when your passion for tech shifted into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think the first time I actually realized that my passion in computing and opening computers and building website could actually be turned into, well, first a job and then a business was
Mm-hmm.
during my first internship. I was doing an internship as a low entry like web developer for this fashion brand called The Couples in the heart of Paris in the Place de Vendôme, for those who knows. And I realized that I was in this, like huge flow with all of these people, sales, tech, real estate, like all of these people. And I was basically like part of something that was bigger
Mm-hmm.
than me. The e-com was one part, but then the brand was actually one part as well. And I was like, there's so much more to just codes in my computer.
Mm-hmm.
There's businesses, there's customers, there's brands, there's fashion, around it. And I was like, oh, what I love to can actually be used you know, in a bigger way than it just for me. So I think that's basically what's my starting point. I feel like I think this computer stuff can work. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So you've said that technology is only useful when it serves a clear and ambitious vision. Can you share an example from KNR where that principle completely changed the outcome for a client?
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people talk about AI right now, and
Yeah,
as a geek, I love AI. It's a fun tool
me
to play
too.
with. It's kind of like magic, like when I start to play with AI, it felt like it was the first time I was learning how to develop. It just feels like another dimension. So it's a fun thing to use. But if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, like it's not the tool itself that's important.
Mm-hmm.
It's what you do with it. AI in itself, it's fun. It's a fun tool. You have, yeah, look what I can do. But if you want to really make it make sense in the concrete world, and that could be business, family, health, and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
it needs to serve like a bigger purpose in itself. The tool itself is not the end, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I think that's what I mean by that is all the tool that we use. They are fun toys to play with. They only become important. They only really matter in real people's life when they are used for a better purpose. It could be something as starting a brand or starting a business that could be reshaping the health industry to actually help people and serve them better with their health and disease and in their loved ones. So that's what I mean. I think when I mean that technology only makes sense within the scheme of a bigger purpose.
So you work with like really large brands.
Yeah.
How do you go from being a techie to building this agency and working with these massive companies in the beauty space or
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, that's true. Every time I used to say that, I was a geek, and then I was like, yeah, but I work in fashion. And then I could see people were like, what? Like, it doesn't make sense.
It
It
doesn't go
doesn't
and
make
go,
sense.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Right. And then I went from like intern to geek to CEO of an agency working with brands, fashion brands, and luxury brands. So it was like, what? How does that happen? And I
Hmm.
don't even know. I think it's just by chance. I My first job was in fashion. My first job, as I said, was with the brand The Couples. That happened to be a brand that works in fashion. I happen to have an older sister who's really also really good and passionate about fashion. She actually started to do fashion design while she was doing her PhD at Berkeley. Like, I don't know how she found the time to do that, but she did. And my mom, she would always, make clothes for us to go to school. So fashion was always a big part of my life. I didn't realize it.
Yeah.
And then, at one time it just clicked. I was like, oh yeah, computers can help fashion brand. I kind of like fashion. It makes sense. And so that's how we started to work in this area. And then how are we able to work for like small brand, like small agency, to work with the L'Oreal, the LVMH, the
Lancom's. Yeah.
yeah, it's again, I think it's because when we started the agency, we loved what we were doing, and we were actually pretty good at it.
Mm.
So there was a market where brands were looking for an agency, a small size that could be flexible, like us, but that could actually know how to deliver to the same level, even sometimes even better than some big groups.
Mm.
So that's where we found our niche. And because we were in Paris, France, the capital of fashion, because fashion in itself is still a small world. Once you do good with the brand, you get referrals. So, I mean, it's funny because for the first 7 years, even to this day, I was like, I don't have a sales team in my company. It just
Hmm.
grow because of referrals, which is good in itself, but in other parts.
Yeah.
But there was really just this word of mouth of people recommending our services through bigger brands. And I remember one day I was sitting in one of the coaching offices, and I got this call from a number that I don't recognize. And I picked it up, and it says, "Hey, this is from the Givenchy house. Can I speak to Gabriel?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "Okay, I got your number for this guy from Louis Vuitton, and we need you
Yeah.
to work with us for the new launch." And the next week, I was in this office, like pitching my services, and I
Yeah.
was like, "That's crazy what just happened," but it happened
Yeah.
through connection.
But here's the thing, right? This is what's interesting to me. Like most startups or small companies that are trying to grow, they have a hard time finding new business because they're small and they don't have referrals and they don't have that customer base. But here you are, you made that your advantage. The fact
Yeah,
that you were small, that you didn't have, it didn't matter if you had a foster or a whole list of existing clients, you made that work for you. So what was your unique selling point by being small and bringing on these massive brands?
yeah. I mean, by being small as a business, especially if you're starting, it can feel overwhelming. You feel like I'm
Mm-hmm.
too small. Um, I'm never going to work with big brand clients because I'm not big enough, which was
Yeah.
what I was thinking for the longest time. The first, I guess, advice I would say is you need to forget about this and think the opposite, because the opposite is true. The
Yeah.
reason why we work with these big brands is because they are looking for small agencies. For many reasons, right? The main one, of course, being the price. Of course, we are like half, maybe like sometimes tenths the price of this big company, because they have
Yeah.
layers of account manager, sales director, shareholders with the dividend, right? So they need
Yeah.
to charge like a premium price. We can do the same, even better services, but we have a small team, right? I have a team of 25. I don't have like an office manager that I need to pay. We don't have big rent
Mm.
offices, so of course our overhead is lower, so our price is lower.
Yeah.
But also, so that's the logical reason why we are a little bit cheaper than these big agencies. The one that took me like a long time to realize is the flexibility and agility, being agile. Because when you go to
Mm-hmm.
these big agencies, Usually they're going to sell you not like a package, but they have consultants and they are good at what they do sometimes, but they're sometimes good at only that, right? Okay, I do Salesforce.
Ah,
I'm really, really good at Salesforce. What if I have
yeah,
Shopify? I don't know what to do Shopify, right? So
yeah,
because we were small, we had to adapt because it's like I'm taking every business that I
Mhm.
can at the beginning, right? So I'm
Yeah,
not saying I'm saying yes to anything, but
yeah,
I'm more likely to adapt myself because I actually need to win this deal to pay my rent and pay my
yeah,
team. So that they loved it a lot, right? And
yeah.
and I would say dedication. Starting a business is hard. Everybody knows it. For the first 3 years, is a lot of sleepless nights that we
Mm,
were willing to put in. That some bigger agency they will not put out. I mean, even right now, we don't really do like all-nighters like we used to do at
yeah.
this point. But there was a time when I was happy to do that, and especially in the fashion business, in the fashion industry,
Mm-hmm.
things change. Like sometimes
Yeah,
we get an email on Friday morning for a company we've been working for like 2 weeks, and like, hey, the CEO just came back from vacation. She changed her mind. Everything needs to change for yesterday.
yeah.
So if you have an agency that's not willing to be agile and flexible, it's not going to work. So I would say this all of the thing that made us small actually were, the reason why we got hired in the first place, because we were willing to do the extra work, and we
Yeah.
basically were what they were looking for. That's what they've been telling us. I mean, even the Givenchy, the LVMH is like, we want a small agency, have a small budget, but I want this to make sense. But
Mm-hmm.
for them, a small budget is really big for you when you're starting out. So
Yeah.
we're really happy to take it. I remember sometimes I
Yeah.
have called with L'Oreal and like, Gabriel, I really want to work with you on this one, but I'm so sorry, my budget is really, really low. And I'm like, okay, like tell it to me. And they're like, 5, 6 figures. I take it, so,
You're like,
because they
I'll
are,
take it.
yeah, I'll take it. I can make it work because,
Yeah.
I can do the work. We can be creative. We'll find a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But big agency, they will not even do that because the sales, they're like, I'm not going to be paid for that. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to take the job.
S-
Yeah.
I hear you, and I think that's great, but there's another a different part to it. So like I'm in tech, and a couple years ago I built a SaaS platform,
Yeah.
so it's subscription based, and we had a massive client come to us, and we were like early days. We had like one other client. We had this massive company come to us, and they're like, we want to use your platform, and exactly for the reason that you said, like it was pricing, which for us was like, yes, but they
Mhm.
also wanted to work with a startup because we had flexibility. We could build
Yeah.
things into our product that bigger established companies were not willing to do, et cetera, right? So fantastic for us, but it and it's great on paper, but then we weren't prepared to bring on a client of that magnitude. We didn't
Mm,
have the resources, we didn't have the team, and so like we were at the beginning running around like a bunch of chickens with our heads cut off, trying to make this client happy, trying to
yeah.
figure out like, okay, this is great, they're paying us, but we got to build this stuff, we got to do this, and now we're also working with a massive company that has all these expectations from us. And it was a bit of a nightmare in the start. How did
Yeah.
you handle that? Because you brought on quite a few large names. And so, how did you deal with that process of scaling, of having the right team, of being able to keep up with the demand of these large companies? Because I'm sure these are like big names, and wherever they go, people sort of like cater to them, right? So, how did you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really true. And I think you said the magic word, right? Expectation. It's
Yeah.
really about managing expectation. I mean, it's easier to say right now, but I think as a small agency, if you have like a big client and they bring on this big project, it's really good to be enthusiastic and to tell them that you can do that. You need also to be realistic because you need to think about your team is going to deliver it. So
Yeah.
really try to manage the timeline and what you set out as expectation. Um, so like so that you don't feel like you need to deliver everything by yesterday or something, and then your team scream at you or something, right? So really,
Yeah.
like in the first phase, yes, it's good to be flexible with the delivery, but maybe not with the time, because of course your team's gonna have to deliver that.
Yeah.
I would say like another point will be transparency. At the beginning, sometimes, and even sometimes today, I was afraid to tell them how small I was as an agency. And if they don't
Yeah.
ask, you're like, oh, they didn't ask. So maybe they think we are bigger than what we are, which is what we want. But and it feels like a good idea when you're pitching, but when they actually sign the deal and expect you to send them like 5 consultants next week to fly to Switzerland for like a workshop, you're like, oh, like how am I going to do that? So honesty and managing expectation. Tell them like, hey, listen,
Mm.
we are a small agency, we have a team of like 10, 20 employees, so we are really willing to work with you on that, but we need to make sure that we are managing expectation, right? You're not going to get a team of 25 or something. I can put you like a team of 3 people. Would that work for you? Yes. The timeline, really not being afraid to push on the timeline. And I think sometimes it's really good to help them understand what their priority is. Especially like you said, if you're in tech, if you're like building a SaaS, if you have a client that is not in tech, most of the time they don't know how to prioritize their task. They want everything right now. And
Yeah.
that's really bad because 90% of the thing they want, they're not going to use, but they say it's
Yeah.
important, right? So one of the first things is like, okay, like what if we needed to deliver just one thing and then throw the rest away, what would it be? Well, everything is
Yeah.
important. Okay, but what if you don't have a choice, you need to choose this one? Okay, so let's focus on that first. What we call the MVP. Let's focus
Yep.
on that. And then the rest, I'm not saying that I'm forgetting it about it, but I'm just writing it in the backlog so we can focus on that because you're going to realize that it's going to take a lot of time to build this thing that you really, really want. So let's prioritize our energy to give you the much value. And once we have that, once you are happy with the product, we can work on what I would call the should have and a nice to have.
Mm-hmm.
So it was it was hard to learn that we
Yeah.
made like our fair share of errors with like building project like
Yeah.
that. But I know that's what's work right now. It's
Mm-hmm.
honesty, transparency, managing expectation, and realizing like being honest with what you can build and deliver for your
Yeah.
client, and that's how you build a long-term relationship as well,
Yeah.
right? Because
And I think that's great advice because that's one of the things that I find like we're talking about like your clients. I'm talking about my client, but I do think that's a big thing in with startup founders, especially in tech, where they're like, I want to build an MVP. And, they're like, okay, an MVP is the bare bones of an application. And then they send it off to companies to get built. And by the end of it, they don't have the bare bones and the skeleton. They have the entire application.
Mhm,
Um, their expectations with the company they were working with were not proper. Like you can't go from an MVP to I would like to have this would be
yeah,
nice, I want this, I want that. And that I do find like that's a common theme that happens. So I love what you're saying around setting expectations,
mhm,
helping them understand what they need and what they
yeah,
don't need and the costs associated with that. I think that's really good advice. I think
mhm,
everybody really needs to listen to this and take away from it like that. I think that's fantastic. And I love the way you put it too, because that's something I see happening all the time, especially in the startup space.
mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you want to provide for your client, you want to give them what they want, but
Yeah.
what they want is not what they need, and what they need is not what you can provide. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard. And listen, like, not every client is made for this type of, building strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some clients want everything right now. And I think you need to either cut them off or let them know that, hey, maybe the product right now is not what you want, but let's circle back in 6, 12 months when we actually have these features and we can
Mm-hmm.
onboard you, making sure that you don't get, like the buyer's remorse after that. So
Yeah.
it's hard decision to make, but I feel like it's the best decision to make as a business owner or like a sales director or head of a product.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So, when you launched the agency, what were the biggest early challenges you faced in getting luxury brands to trust a young agency, and how did you overcome it?
Well, I think one of the main issues we had with launching with getting luxury clients I think the main one is that I was afraid to contact them, first of all. Was the main reason is because, again, I thought that I was too small for them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I thought there's no way they can work with me. So I just didn't reach out to them. I think I was being my worst enemy. So that was literally like the main issue, because when we started to reach out, to them, I mean, yes, they were hard to contact. Like this
Mhm.
luxury client, they get emails every day, so they have like really uh, you know e- um, efficient like
Strict.
spam filters. Like they don't really answer the call, so it's really hard. um but for us, one of the main thing was to actually niche down, because when we
Mhm.
started the agency, even though our first client was fashion, we had other clients because we were small, so we wanted to work with, we used to have like a bank and like a festival company and fashion brand as a logo on a website, which doesn't make sense, right? So the first thing that helped us actually, like, not even reach out, but actually being contacted by luxury clients, is to niche down and to have our branding correct, which means we need to decide that, okay, we are going to work with fashion client and luxury clients, so we're going to define ourselves as not just
Mm.
a web agency or not an e-commerce agency, but the e-commerce agency for fashion companies, right? So then you have that as your branding. That's who you are. Then you show it, right? You show only clients. Like, we dropped so many logos from a homepage because they didn't match who we wanted to be, because we wanted to be like, look at us, we do only fashion. And then we started to release like a little bit of use cases. Even though we didn't have a lot, but
Mhm.
people, they don't need to do like to see like 20 case studies. They need to only see one that match what they're looking for to be
Yeah.
want to contact you. So we just started to release. Oh yeah, we help like Etam help redesign their CRM strategy like a few months ago. Oh yeah, let's do that
Mhm.
into like a case study. Put that on the website. So now we have the positioning as the agency for e-commerce. We have some clients, like one, two, three, like, okay, small company, and we have case studies. This is what we do. That was
Mhm.
enough for us to basically being contacted by luxury clients, because most of the time they will reach out to you.
Yeah.
It's really hard to contact them. They don't really appreciate
Yeah.
being like, called
Yeah.
on the phone or reach out by email. That's not really how it works for these clients.
Yeah. I love what you just said, like just about being niche. And I can totally resonate because, again, I had another SaaS product. And I remember when we first built it. And I think this is what a lot of founders do I'm just going to use myself as an example. When we built it, we were like, well, what customers do we want? And in our mind is like, we don't care. We just want all
Yeah,
customers, right?
yeah.
So then we made a huge mistake where we were launching, it's an application. We built it for B2B and B2C,
Mm, yeah,
and we got none.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because like selling business to business and selling business to consumers are two completely different marketing strategies,
exactly.
right? And it wasn't until we went through the same process like you did a little bit, where we're like, okay, first off, we're not going to do B2C anymore. We're just going to focus on B2B, and it's going to be in this type of industry, in this niche. So, and I think that's such valuable information for people who have ideas, who are starting out, who want to launch a product or a business, like to be niche about where you're going to be, because if not, then all we're really doing is just putting out a net into the ocean and hoping
Yeah,
some kind of fish come in. But then you could get like 10,000 different fish types coming in, and like which one are you going to serve really, really well, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And linked to what you said earlier, if you have one big client from this industry and one big client for the other industry, they're gonna have they're gonna have different demands. So how do you
Mm-hmm.
build a tool or like a software or like a SaaS that actually like answer to both these demands? It's gonna be
Yeah.
very, 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 very hard. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's good to focus on one. And one thing I remember, I don't know if that was the same for you, but uh, I didn't want to do that, right? I didn't want to do the branding. I wanted to keep being like an agency for everyone. I remember my business partner was like, yeah, but I think we need to do that. I was like, no, I don't, I think we're good right now. And I remember So I was afraid, and I think a lot of people, if
It's
they hear that,
fear.
they're gonna be like, "But what if a client that I didn't even know existed come to me and know that I've changed my branding? They don't want to work." It's like, yeah, that's gonna happen. But the thing is, people who will come to you looking for you, they are twice, maybe like 10 times as more likely to actually contact you because
Yeah.
you do match what they're looking for. So I
Mhm.
think I was afraid that I was gonna lose clients, which actually did not happen.
Yeah.
But what happened is that people contacted me because they wanted to work with me. So they don't even compare me to other agencies. They're like, you do fashion, they do everything. I'm a fashion brand. I want to work with you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's even, I mean, that was true in France, but I think it's even truer like in the US, right? I was
Yeah.
underestimating the size of my market. I had no idea how many brands existed, so I thought that I was in scarcity mode, which that was not the case at all. So one exercise that actually helped me is actually try to figure out, okay, like, how many brands actually exist and require my
Mm.
services. And you're surprised, like, oh my gosh, like 10,000. Okay, I'm good. If I can get those, I probably don't need like a million clients, probably cannot handle that. Like, but 10,000 is doable, right? So
Yeah.
niching down, it's gonna help me convert more. It's gonna help me get more clients, and this market is enough for me, right? So that would
Yeah.
be something that I know helped me a lot when I finally agreed to niche
Yeah.
down and
And you know
specialize.
what too? And you know what too? Like it also it makes your business better because now you're really good at this one thing for this one vertical. Like everyone that's going to come to you, you're pretty much going to do the same thing over and over again and you have the knowledge base. When you're dealing with a whole bunch of different types of customers or industries, you're sort of like you're running around like a chicken with your head cut off because
Yeah,
every industry you have to learn and you have to
exactly.
figure out. And then just when you think you figure that out, a completely different industry comes along. So you're never like, you're always jack of all trades, master of none.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. That's so true. Um, because and also you need to train your team, right? You need to train your
Yeah.
team to do this thing. You need to help them understand and even anticipate the needs of your clients. But if your clients come from different industry, they will have different needs. So how do you even train your sales to close them? How do you even
Yeah.
train your like product manager to address their issue if you don't know what they're doing in their
Yeah.
business? So yeah,
Yeah.
one thing that I was thinking the other day is we need to have what I've called like a sniper positioning. Like like a
Yeah.
sniper has like a crosshair. So you need to have your vertical right, just one, right? Not five, but just one. And then one thing you're good at, like what your service is. And you are like in the middle, like like really
Mm.
focused, like like the crosshair of a sniper. And if you can do that, then
Yeah.
people are just gonna come to you because you are exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's really good advice, and I think that's I think it's an exercise that as a founder you have to do before you actually hire a team, before you launch your product. I mean, obviously there's going to be loopholes, right? You're
Yeah.
not going to know everything, but I do think it's an exercise that even myself I wish I had done. I think I've had a lot of failures
Mhm.
in some of the companies I founded or I started because I didn't go through that process on at the get-go because you get really excited, right?
Yeah.
About, ooh, I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
an idea and I'm gonna build it and it's gonna
It's not, yeah.
it's gonna grow and like someone's gonna come and buy it out. And then all of a sudden you launch and boom, nobody wants it, right? Because you didn't do that work ahead of time. But I do think that's a common thing with people who are excited about ideas, are excited about starting a business, right? They're like, let's build it and then let's go after those clients, which actually, in fact, you should do the opposite, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
Every time somebody comes to me with a business idea, uh, which I think is great, right? To have this creativity, this
Yeah.
this willingness to actually like create is something that I really love into people like entrepreneur and even like people who want to be entrepreneur. But as
Yeah.
you say, yeah, you get like very excited. Ah, I'm gonna build this, and I'm like, okay, listen, you have an idea that's really great. No, before you start spending hours and money like building it, try to sell it first. Like sell what?
Yeah.
Well, sell the idea, right? Go to your customers, figure out who they were, and sell your idea first. If they buy it, then build it. If they don't buy it, then don't build because they're not gonna buy it when it's
Yeah.
easy build, right? If they don't buy the
Yeah.
idea, like why would they buy the final product? So that's
Yeah.
something that I said. I try to go and sell the idea first, and if it's worked, then you already have your future clients already figured out. So that's really good. You
Yeah.
can figure the pricing, if you can figure like who they are, what they're looking for, adapt. So
Yeah.
so yeah, as you said, like selling. Yeah,
I was talking to somebody the other day and they said something to me. And I mean, I think technically I knew this, but they said something to me that really hit me. And I'm like, wow. And it was, if you're the founder of a company and you can't sell, then you're not a founder, right? The
yeah,
founders need to be the very first salespeople of those companies. And I think it goes to the point that you just made, which is like go out, talk to customers, talk to people, and try to sell it so that you can do all of that work ahead of time, and then you actually understand the what your clients are going to want in the industries that you're going to end up serving. I think that's such
yeah.
a great exercise to do ahead of time.
Yeah, and then it's gonna help you get more motivated because you're gonna feel like, wow, this idea that I have resonates with other people. So it's
Yeah.
and if it doesn't, then it's good because then you can pivot and understand what they want. And I think this,
Yeah.
yeah, I think as you said, exactly. I remember when we were starting, again, we still don't have a sales team, but I was like, I'm not a salesman. I don't know how to sell, and I still don't. But and I think, I mean, it depends who people are, but when I used to hear like sales, I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to be like salesy and like speak and try to lie to them and whatever, which is
Yeah.
not at all what it is, and especially not for a founder. When I go on a call with a client, with a potential client, I actually tell them, listen, I'm not a sales guy, right? I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to listen to what you have to say, listen to your problem. Then I'm gonna tell you what I do, how I can help
Hmm.
you, and if it's a good fit, we can work together. If it's not, you know, you go find like another,
Yeah.
yeah, go find another client. It's fine, and that's the best sell form of selling. I think is try to understand what they're looking for, where they're trying to go, figure out if you are able to help them do that, and if so, then you don't really have to sell, right? It just becomes
Yeah.
evidence that you should work together.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, yeah, you're right. Salespeople sometimes get a bad reputation from
Yeah.
people like me and you because we're scared of doing sales, and we
Yeah.
think sales is like this whole thing, and it is. A salesperson, they have a process,
Mhm.
certain things that they do. But like for a founder, just going out, I think sales is going out, talking about your product, talking about this thing that you're very passionate about, and
Yeah.
then seeing if people are interested in it. And if they are,
Exactly.
you just did a sale, right? So it's very different than that traditional salesperson. And I think it's great. Like you're at the point in your agency where you don't have salespeople because obviously you don't need it. But I also want to make sure that this conversation is understood that like, yes, you might need salespeople at some point in your company, but
Oh yeah,
if
for sure.
you can't afford them or you don't have it, you need to start with you,
Yeah. Oh yeah, yes,
right?
that's right. And I think it's always better to start with you. You have to. And the thing is, once you do, it's gonna be so much easier to actually hire salespeople because you're gonna tell them, hey, listen,
Yeah.
this is what I say to people on the call, and it seems to work. So do that. you know? So
Yeah.
so if you do it first, then you
Yeah.
hire people who are even better at you that at doing it. And you tell them,
Yeah.
hey, listen, like what I do, it seems to be working. Let's see if you can improve it, right?
Yeah.
So they already have something to work on, and you already know that there's a market for it. But yes, of course, I mean, as of right now, I mean, I said we don't have a sales team. We started to have one because we are scaling, but
Yeah.
we didn't have one for like 7 years. We're just starting to have them, and I realized that since I'm not a salesperson, it would be so hard for me to train them. But no,
Yeah.
I just basically give them recording of my code. I'm like, hey, listen, this is what I do. This is what we sell. Go do the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's I think it's easier if you're not a salesperson. It's easier to actually delegate to like someone who does sell if you've been doing it before. If you haven't, either you find someone who's really really good at it and can build the whole sales toolkit for you, which it's hard to find, and you might like go through bad people, uh,
Hmm.
or you just do it yourself and do as you go. But yeah, it's you need to start selling at some point as a
I
founder. I think
agree.
yeah.
I agree 100%. Well, we're coming up on time. It's going by fast. But before we wrap up, I do want to ask you another question. One of the, I always like to talk to founders who have reached a certain level of success in their business so that entrepreneurs and founders can learn from you. And I think like this conversation has been amazing, but it's not all about success. There are failures and things that happen along the way. So, can you share a failure or a lesson learned along your way, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I can share. Yeah, I can share one. I think I have at least one. I have many. Of course, I
You know
have
what?
many.
I always get that answer when I ask this question. Always, never fails. Which is a point also, failure is okay.
Yeah, I mean it's part of it, right? It's
Yeah.
not possible to just have wins. It's like you fail, and I'm just trying to find one. I mean, I have so much that I probably forget half of them because
Mm-hmm.
even though failure is in inevitable, there are I mean it's cliche, but it's like learning opportunities. So you learn.
Yeah.
So one that I remember having is, well, I was working with a big client as well in cosmetic, and that was the time when I was starting to delegate a little bit of my workflow. So I was not that much in the operation.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like 3, 4 years into the agency. So I was still trying to be cheap. So I was hiring people not really expensive, as we were talking earlier with sales. And I hired like this project manager, right? That was doing okay, but he could not handle like a really stressful situation like that happened with big clients, right? So
Mm-hmm.
something happened within the project because we were late or something, and we ended up uh you know uh losing not even a client, but losing the trust of a person working
Yeah.
within this big company. And losing your client, I think it's fine. Sometimes it can happen. But losing the trust of someone working in business, you lose a
Yeah.
client, but you actually lose like a person and like a link. So what I understand from this point is that okay, like no, I cannot longer afford to hire affordable people. I need to
Mm.
go to the A level. I need to pay people like, I need to pay them like half salary, so I get the best people ever. So I was trying to
Yeah.
be cheap by hiring people, like with a low, hourly rate, but that costs me so much, and that just
Yeah.
makes so much more money to hire people who are like really, really good at what they do. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have to micromanage them. I just have to tell them, hey, this is what you need to do it. And they do even better than what I expect them to do because this is their job. So
Yeah.
yeah, one advice I think that I would say, I mean, yeah, really like go for people, like don't try to hire cheap. It's gonna bite you in the derriere. Really go for the A player, the one who that you can just
Yeah.
trust with your eyes closed, and they deliver even better than what you expect them to do.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think everybody's been through that as well, and project managers especially. And listen, you're saying all this stuff. I'm like, yep, I've been through that. And I think it's not, I don't think it's because you're trying to be cheap. It's because like you're just starting out, right? You're trying
Yeah,
to like stretch your budget, your cash flow, your money. You're like, well, like I can train this person,
yeah.
I do
Biggest
that all the
lie
time. I'll
ever.
train them. And then meanwhile, I have like zero time to train anybody, right?
Yeah,
But you just have that I guess it's wishful thinking, but you're right.
yeah,
At the end of the day, it can cause you some serious harm to your business and you can lose clients or the trust, right? Because that
yeah,
person could eventually move on to another company. And let's say that company is your client. They're going to be like, I don't really want to work with this vendor. I've had that happen, right? So
yeah.
it is a tricky spot to be in for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you are niching down, which is good, but then the market stocks and people change jobs. I mean, we got so many referrals because somebody was working at this brand, and then 3 to 4 years they changed to like a higher brand, higher position. They cut you back. I have so many. I
Yeah.
got one last week. Somebody that was having for this watch company. They work now in cosmetic. They just put my name out there, like just contact Gabriel if you need that. But that's because I helped her like a lot by then when she was working
Mm-hmm.
in the company. But I know that the people, I lost trust of some of my clients because, me, someone from my team or anything, like we messed up. And I know I'm probably never gonna hear from them again, which is sad
Yeah.
because I usually actually like my clients, so
Yeah.
it's not good to feel like you let them down,
Yeah. It's
So
part of the
yeah,
process.
it is, yeah. That's so
It's one
true.
of those hard lessons to learn, but it's got to be done, right? Everyone's
You
going to
have
lose a
to.
client at some point in their lives,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
I mean, you will lose a few. I mean, it's good to if you're able to keep them, but yeah, the thing is, you'll be surprised. I think you'll be surprised by how many agencies, even in my field, they just I don't know how they do to acquire, but they have how do you say, like a higher churn. They
Mm,
lose clients as soon as they win them, but they still work like this. And I'm like, how do you? I don't know. It's weird.
yeah.
I rather not try to please a client and make them stay with me longest because it's
Yeah.
so hard to get a new client. Like I want
Yeah.
to have not a lot of clients come in, but enough that stays so that I can keep doing business with them for like the longest time.
Yeah,
But
the
you
cost
lose
of
some of them.
acquisition.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, Gabriel, this was such a lovely conversation. I had a lot of fun chatting with you about
yeah.
your business, what you do, your advice for founders just based on your own stuff. This was great. Thank you for sharing, for being honest and willing to do it with me today.
Well, thank you for having me, Sonia. That was really fun. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to thank Gabriel for joining me today and sharing an honest look at the journey from passion to building a globally recognized agency. What really stood out to me was the reminder that technology on its own means nothing. It's the vision behind that creates real growth. For all the founders listening, this episode is a powerful reminder that resilience, creativity, and strategy go hand in hand. The setbacks, the pivots, the lessons, they're all part of building something that lasts. And that's a wrap. To our listeners, thank you for joining me on this journey of learning, growth, and inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and connect with our community on social media. I'd love to hear your feedback, so leave a review and let me know what topics you'd want to explore in future episodes. Remember, the future belongs to those who embrace challenges, adapt with tenacity, and keep pushing forward. Keep growing, keep pivoting, and most importantly, stay tenacious in your pursuits. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to bringing you more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes. This is Sonia signing off, but as always, keep chasing your dreams with tenacity.